Hello and welcome to the April 19th, 2026 episode of Nick's News. I am your host, Nick, brought to you by Some Budget Studios. That's right, we're paying for this project of ours. We're live every Sunday, and I thank you all so much for tuning in or catching the replay on the Nick's News YouTube channel. This is a program dedicated to bringing good news to counter all the bad news that we are bombarded with on a daily basis, with the hope of bringing a little bit of joy back to the world. Several of our articles are pulled from sites like Industry Tap, Live Science, Positive.News, and GoodGoodGood.co, but we appreciate everything sent in by you, the Nick's Newsies. Hello, everybody. Yes, we are fighting WrestleMania tonight, so darn. Curse us actually having Sunday as our day to broadcast, but we shall soldier on. News Brew. It is the month of my birth. So, lucky for me, Point Brewing Company released a 4-pack of very special stouts that are seemingly tailored specifically to my tastes. Who doesn't enjoy dessert? And since it's a birth month, how about cake? I really like coconut. So it's time for Nocturnal Nosh German chocolate cake. I absolutely love the can art on these with the owl. So this is a 13.5% ABV high octane Imperial barrel-aged pastry stout. Happy birthday to me. It's time for cake. So it is a stout, so we're going to make our harpoon snifter work overtime. We don't need the Balisong bottle opener because it's a can, so we'll just blow the gain on the audio. That was a good one. And we'll get into the theatrics of a 5-minute pour. I was out of town this weekend and had some absolutely phenomenal beers, including a really crazy chocolate pecan barley wine. I did battle with the barley wine. And I also had a stout that almost put me on my ass. I was actually really surprised by it. So, okay. Ooh. That's got some chocolate coconut going on. A little thinner, but it is that nice dark color that we like our stouts to be. So, let's get into our shout-outs. Spring is in the air, and you know what that means. Less frequent snow, because we're still getting some snow, and the start of allergy season. Grab a couple of tissues and bring your angry sinuses to Fox and Hen Vineyards tasting room to sample one of their small batch wines or ciders with local fruit and served in a fun and inviting atmosphere. They're open Friday and Saturday from 1 to 8 p.m., and I'm usually there on Fridays, about 5 to close. Fox and Hen is located between downtown Grand Haven and Allendale, Michigan, so swing on by on Fridays and see if you want to have a cider or a wine with me. So, to Fox and Hen, cheers. Hello, Gregory. Hey, Ethan. Thank you very much. And currently drinking a Guinness studying for finals. Cheers, my friend. Cheers indeed, and best of luck on your finals. There's chocolate and there's coconut. This is a solid brew. Another shout out. Gamers really came together last weekend on March 11th and 12th for the annual March. I think that should mean April 11th and 12th? Producer Donna? I think we need to double check that and fix it in post. Yeah, I think we need to change that and fix it in post, but so last weekend, April 11th and 12th, the annual Hermitcraft charity, am I getting ahead of myself here with this? Gosh, I got all screwed up because of the date. So, let me restart. Gamers really came together last weekend, April 11th and 12th, for the annual Hermitcraft Charity Weekend for Gamers Outreach. This year, the Hermitcraft community raised $1,409,232. Gamers Outreach is a charity that empowers hospitalized children through video games. They supply gaming carts and other enrichment to children's hospitals around the world. To Gamers Outreach and Hermitcraft, a charity that raised $1.4 million for children who are hospitalized. Cheers. Hey, Ethan, you're going to be back at Flexco. Fantastic. I will see you there, my friend. News quote, because we're definitely on an astronaut kick and we ain't getting off of it anytime soon. What you saw was a group of people who loved contributing, having meaningful contribution, and extracting joy out of that. And what we've been hearing is that was something special for you to witness. I would suggest to you that when you look up here, you're not looking at us. We are a mirror reflecting you. And if you like what you see, then just look a little deeper. This is you. That quote came from Jeremy Roger Hansen, who was born in 1976, who is a Royal Canadian Air Force colonel and a CSA astronaut, and served as the mission specialist aboard Artemis II, and in doing so became the first non-US citizen to travel beyond low Earth orbit and the first to journey to the vicinity of the moon. And I really, really love that quote because as the crew of Artemis II was out there and we were watching them in an unprecedented amount of television and live streaming and broadcasting, basically seeing them on their historic journey around the moon, a lot of folks were looking up to them and looking at them as these amazing heroes. And it's not to say that they aren't, but Mission Specialist Hansen wanted to say, you're just as special as they are. All the things that you're looking at, all of the contributions and the hope and the goodness that you're thinking of them is you. It is of you. And you have those things, and you deserve those things. So what you saw was a group of people who loved contributing, having meaningful contribution, and extracting joy out of that. And what we've been hearing is that was something special for you to witness. I would suggest to you that when you look up here, you're not looking at us. We are a mirror reflecting you. And if you like what you see, then just look a little deeper. This is you. To Mission Specialist Jeremy Roger Hansen. Cheers. Hey, Christian. Bug update. I was MIA most of last week due to work. I actually didn't get back till this morning. Or this afternoon. But my bugs couldn't have cared less. Everything went off like clockwork. I had the timers set for the lights, and nothing really went wrong in here, so they're all good. Sue is grumbly, but Sue is always grumbly, so everything else is great. There's no more chirping crickets, so I'm guessing that Ripley has silenced them once again. Thank you so much, Ripley, for doing so, and it's all good in the bug room. Hello, Kiffin. Hello, Nico. Glad to have you all with us. All right, Kiffin is Joey. Jesus. Joey Wheeler. All right. Let's get into our good news. Our broadcast is broken up into 4 major categories, and those categories are science and technology, health and medicine, flora and fauna, aka plants and animals, and wholesome notes, the really nice articles we like to end on. So we're going to start off in category 1, science and technology. And we called this article, "It Pays to Remember Teachers Are Heroes." And I will copy and paste this into the chat if y'all want to check it out. And as usual, I will let you all know that all of the articles that we present on our broadcast can be found in the description of our video. So you can look at them at your leisure. And by all means, I suggest that you do. We have amazing articles from amazing sites like goodgoodgood.co, LiveTap, SciTech Daily, Space.com. These are all sites that deserve the traffic. We're kind of just the mouthpiece and the messenger for them. So, Mark Rober invested $60 million on building STEM curriculum, and he's giving it to teachers for free. This was published to goodgoodgood.co on April 14th of 2026 by Cameron Baker. Mark Rober, a NASA engineer turned YouTube sensation with over 75 million subscribers, has spent his entire internet career making creative, silly, engaging science experiments for viewers, many of them being young people. His company, Crunch Labs, sells build boxes and creative kits to bring the fun home to kids. But underneath the videos of swimming pools filled with jello and goalie robots that can beat Cristiano Ronaldo through the power of physics, Rober argues he's introducing kids to real science. For the last 15 years, once a month, I've uploaded a free science or engineering video to YouTube, Robert said in a TED Talk at TED 2026 in Vancouver, British Columbia, earlier this week. And 16 billion views later, from what I've learned is, I can't teach you if I don't have your attention. But if I can get your attention with something remarkable, well, now I have something to attach the learning to. He calls this method hiding the vegetables, by introducing kids that grew up on YouTube and TikTok to science, technology, engineering, and math in fun, creative ways. It's really boring if you make a video about the scientific method, but what's not boring is if you make a video about a 15-ton jello pool you can actually belly flop onto. And in the process, I'ma sneak in all 6 steps of the scientific method. He noted he was inspired by his high school statistics teacher, Mr. Malloy, who used statistics lessons to predict a rival school soccer team's penalty kicks. He was so good at attaching emotion to learning. He was so good at hiding the vegetables, Rober said. This is why I love teachers. I think they have the most important job on the planet. Rober said his dream job is ultimately to be a middle school science teacher. But in the meantime, he wants to make it easier for teachers to implement fun, engaging lessons in STEM, instead of forcing them to spend their own money on materials. As Rober's Crunch Lab website shares, he doesn't think there's a STEM talent shortage, but an inspirations shortage. And with the size of his reach, if Crunch Labs were a school district, the website reads, we would be larger than every public and private school in America combined. Rober wants to change that. On a TED stage, he announced something he's been working on for about 2.5 years with a team of science teachers across the country. Class Crunch Labs, an online STEM curriculum program that's tailored to grades 3 through 8. The reason we're doing this is because it breaks my heart when I see teachers who get paid salaries that as society we should be ashamed of, spending their own money on resources that totally suck. Class Crunch Labs has everything they need, Rober said. This includes banger videos kids are going to beg to re-watch that explain the science, for example. It's got ready-to-teach slide decks that are super clean and easy to use. It's got this really thought-out, curated science demos that kids get to viscerally react to the science that teachers can make with stuff they just have lying around the classroom, he explained. Rober said the courses exceed all the state science standards as well. The teacher becomes the hero as they engage the students in real science and engineering they actually care about, he said. It's exactly what science class was meant to be. Super frickin' fun. In total, Rober and Crunch Labs invested about $60 million in building this curriculum, he said. According to the crunchlabs.org Foundation website, the nonprofit arm of Rober's work launched with a generous $7.2 million anonymous gift, along with seed funding from Crunch Labs. But for teachers, it will be completely free. Rober said that of the teachers who taught pilot lessons to students, 95% said they wanted class crunch labs to be their full science curriculum. The idea is you combine incredible teachers with incredible resources to get explosive output. Rober said, "To all those teachers out there in the trenches, I want you to know, reinforcements are on the way." The first round of Class Crunch Labs units are now available online in a link in the article. To Mark Rober, NASA engineer turned YouTube sensation who's really great at getting kids to eat their veggies in the form of learning science, technology, engineering, and math, and who has made a program that is free for teachers to bring that exuberance and that energy into the classroom. Cheers. I have a slew of teachers in my family. My mother was an amazing elementary school teacher. My brother is an amazing art teacher. One of my aunts is an absolutely amazing teacher. And I have the utmost respect for teachers. And something that was brought up in the article, the wages that we pay our teachers, who are the real superheroes out there teaching children and getting them engaged and helping them to learn where they want to go in the world. It really is a travesty. So any little bit that can help our teachers, be it with resources, materials, or assistance with lessons to get kids engaged, that's good in my book. All right, that's going to get us out of science and technology. We're going to move on to category 2, health and medicine. We called this first one, Let Kids Be Kids. I'll copy and paste this into the chat if y'all want to check it out. The roaches are hissing very loudly at one another right now. I don't know if the mic is picking it up. New study challenges 40-year puzzle about childhood body fat. This was published to SciTech Daily on April 18th of 2026 by the American Society for Nutrition. A study in the Journal of Nutrition is challenging a long-accepted idea about how childhood obesity begins. For decades, scientists have tracked a phase called adiposity rebound, when the body mass index, or BMI, starts to rise again after dropping in early childhood. That increase has often been viewed as an early warning sign of future obesity. However, this new research suggests the story may be more complex. Using data from 2,410 children and adolescents ages 2 to 19 in the 2021 to 2023 U.S. National Health and Nutrition Examination Survey, or the NHANES, the NHANES, researchers found that BMI does increase around age 6 as expected. At the same time, another metric, the waist-to-height ratio, continues to decline. Because this ratio reflects body fat, the findings indicate that children are not necessarily gaining fat during this period. Instead, they are likely building lean mass, such as muscle and bone, as part of normal growth. This matters because BMI, while widely used, cannot tell the difference between fat and muscle. A child who is growing taller and stronger may show a rising BMI even if their body fat is stable or decreasing. That limitation has led some researchers to question whether BMI alone can accurately capture health risks during childhood, a time when body composition is constantly shifting. Recent global consensus statements on redefining and diagnosing obesity have recommended that obesity should not be diagnosed with BMI alone, but confirmed with non-invasive measures such as waist-to-height ratio. Agbaji said. Now, who is Agbaji? That name didn't pop up yet. Who is Agbaji? How is this article written to not have whoever this person is? So the writer of the article is Dr. Andrew O. Agbaji. Okay, so Dr. Andrew O. Agbaji stated, this new study buttresses the misleading use of BMI in children whose body composition rapidly changes during growth and the potential for attributing physiological functions to pathology, which might lead to unnecessary interventions. Waist-to-height ratio should be incorporated as the first inexpensive measure in diagnosing pediatric obesity, with BMI used as a confirmatory tool due to its imprecision. For more than 40 years, adiposity rebound has been defined as the stage in childhood, typically around age 6, when BMI begins to increase after an early drop. BMI is calculated from height and weight and is widely used to screen for obesity. An earlier rebound has often been viewed as a warning sign for future weight problems. However, BMI does not separate fat mass from fat-free mass such as muscle and bone, as stated previously. Because of this limitation, researchers have questioned whether the rise in BMI truly reflects increased body fat or simply normal shifts in the body during growth. To address the issue, the researchers used the weight-to-height ratio, which compares weight circumference to height to estimate abdominal fat. Higher levels of abdominal fat are linked to increased risks of conditions such as heart disease, type 2 diabetes, high blood pressure, liver disease, and bone fractures. And since the measure reflects fat distribution and is less influenced by muscle growth, it may provide a more accurate assessment of body fat in children. The team described the gap between BMI and waist-to-height ratio trends as a body composition reset, suggesting a shift towards lean tissue development that supports healthy growth. These findings add the evidence that BMI alone is not reliable to capture body composition in children whose bodies change quickly as they grow. Including waist-to-height ratio in routine assessments could improve how clinicians evaluate body fat and reduce the risk of labeling normal development as obesity. The full article is listed as Adiposity Rebound or Fat-Free Mass Anabolism in Children, challenging a 42-year-old BMI puzzle with waist-to-height ratio. The ASNF-NNF 2025 inaugural Fleming Quad Award for Innovation in Childhood Obesity lecture by Andrew O. Agbaji, which was done on the 10th of March of 2026 in the Journal of Nutrition. And there's a link to it in the article. So, to everybody involved in these studies, trying to figure out a better way to tackle childhood obesity by making sure that we're looking at the right numbers. Cheers. Next article here in Health and Medicine we called One Shot Can Say That the Organ Can Stay. And I will copy and paste this into the chat if y'all want to check it out. This was some really good news, especially for those who have gone through organ transplantation. Organ transplants without lifelong meds? New trial shows it's possible. This was published to Gizmodo on April 18th of 2026 by Ed Cara. A small clinical trial out this week might offer a sneak preview of a promising medical advance: organ transplants without the need for lifelong anti-rejection drugs. Doctors at the University of Pittsburgh tested out whether a novel technique could train people's immune systems to completely accept a donated liver. Several people given the treatment were able to stop taking immunosuppressant drugs and stay off of them for at least 3 years, the trial showed. Though only preliminary, this work might lead to a much more convenient future for some organ recipients, the researchers hope. We demonstrate that a single infusion in adult living liver donor transplantation recipients is feasible and safe, they wrote in the paper, which was published Friday of last week in Nature Communications. As life-saving as a donated organ can be, it takes a toll on a recipient's body. One major reason why is the constant need for drugs that blunt the immune system's intolerance of the foreign organ. These drugs not only weaken people's defenses against infection, they also tend to steadily harm other parts of the body. And even with medication, people's donated organs still experience gradual damage from the immune system, often leading to eventual failure. It's no surprise then that scientists have long searched for better ways to minimize or fully eliminate the risk of organ rejection. This latest research revolves around regulatory dendritic cells. These cells can communicate with other immune cells to tamp things down a bit with the immune system's response to antigens when needed, such as for antigens produced by the body. The study team theorized that exposing an organ recipient to these cells from their donor prior to a transplant could effectively prime the former's immune system to accept the donated organ. They decided to work with living liver transplant patients for this trial, since livers tend to be better tolerated by the host's immune system in general, according to the researchers. Livers are also one of the few organs that can be donated while living, since they can regenerate even if a piece of them is removed. The trial involved 13 transplant recipients, specifically 13 liver transplant recipients. Each were given a dose of their donor's regulatory dendritic cells, derived from other white blood cells, a week before their transplant. They were placed on conventional anti-rejection therapy, then monitored over the next year. A year later, the researchers tried to wean 8 recipients off of the drugs, since their immune systems showed signs of strong tolerance to the new liver. Of the 8, 4 were able to stop taking their immunosuppressant drugs completely, though one eventually had to go back on them. The other 3 stayed drug-free until the end of the study, for an average length of 3 years, while their health remained stable. Even today, the researchers noted a small percentage of liver recipients are lucky enough to eventually not need anti-rejection therapy, which is around 13 to 16%. But the team's experimental therapy seemed to boost the success rate to 37.5%. The authors are quick to admit that their research is still in its early days, and that work will be needed to confirm the therapy's effectiveness. Ideally, that will include studies that directly compare the therapy to just standard care. But the researchers are optimistic that regulatory dendritic cells are a viable approach to improving the immune tolerance and long-term survival of donated organs. And they're already looking to test other ways to improve the therapy's success, such as using different immunosuppressant drugs at first that might play nicer with these cells, or changing up when the cells are given to recipients. While we haven't hit a home run yet, we've definitely gotten on base by reliably and safely removing immunosuppression early after transplantation from a significant percentage of patients, which is a huge breakthrough, said first author Abhinav Humar, chief of the Division of Transplantation at the University of Pittsburgh Medical Center, in a statement from the university. Research teams elsewhere are working on their own methods for eliminating organ rejection. We've had a couple articles in previous episodes of Nick's News regarding such. And while some of the projects will inevitably come up short, it's certainly possible that organ donation could become a much safer and less cumbersome hassle in the not-too-distant future. To everybody from the University of Pittsburgh involved in this study, weaning people off of immunosuppressants after liver transplants thanks to a revolutionary new idea for how to treat it. Cheers. All right, that's going to get us out of health and medicine. We're going to move on to category 3, flora and fauna, aka plants and animals. And the first article here in flora and fauna is an I Like Turtles article. So I'll copy and paste this into the chat if y'all want to check this out. Producer Donna in the chat saying the immunosuppressant article is so awesome, and I wholeheartedly agree with her. The Kemp's Ridley sea turtle is the most endangered sea turtle in the world. This aquarium just saved 35 of them. This article was published at goodgoodgood.co on April 15th of 2026 by Megan Cook. On March 12th, the Audubon Aquarium Rescue of New Orleans released 29 sea turtles back into the Mississippi Gulf Coast, where the Gulf of Mexico meets the Mississippi Sound. Yesterday, we released 27 Kemp's Ridley and 2 green sea turtles in Biloxi, Mississippi, the aquarium shared in a Facebook post. The Kemp's Ridleys are part of the group of 35 cold-stunned turtles sent to us from the New England Aquarium. According to the aquarium, the 2 green sea turtles, named Calvin and Martha, had been found in Port Fortune, Louisiana, in early February from a separate cold-stunning event. Cold stunning occurs when frigid temperatures cause sea turtles to go into hypothermic shock, often resulting in dehydration and pneumonia. To track the recovery process for the group of Kemp's Ridley sea turtles, the aquarium staff named the rescues. Each one was named after a mineral like jade, mica, opalite, pebble, aquamarine, onyx, quartz, coal, and more. After months of rehabilitation, these rocks are polished and back to the shining in the ocean, the aquarium celebrated. The release was a long time coming. The 35 Kemp's Ridley sea turtles had been found stranded along the New England coast in November after severe winter weather struck Cape Cod. In total, the New England Aquarium saved the lives of over 450 sea turtles during the 2025 to 2026 season, including 404 Kemp's Ridley turtles, 48 green sea turtles, and 21 loggerhead sea turtles. In December, the Audubon Aquarium Rescue stepped in to take nearly 3 dozen off their hands, transferring them via a chartered flight. Some of these turtles arrived in rough shape. They will need more extensive rehabilitation than others. Gabriella Harlemart, Audubon Aquarium Rescue Stranding and Rehab Coordinator, told New Orleans City Business in December. At the time of the Gulf release, 8 Kemp's Ridley sea turtles were still in recovery, requiring more time to get their swimming strong enough to return to the wild. Kemp's Ridley sea turtles are the world's smallest sea turtle, and in the last few decades they've also become one of the rarest, which is why the aquarium staff is approaching their rehabilitation with the utmost care. Today, 95% of Kemp's Ridley nesting occurs in Tamaulipas, Mexico, along the Gulf of Mexico, where most of its global population lives. However, they have also been sighted in the eastern North Atlantic Ocean off the coastlines of Western Europe and Africa, and in the western North Atlantic Ocean as far north as Nova Scotia. In the mid-20th century, Kemp's Ridley sea turtles were flourishing, with tens of thousands of females nesting throughout Rancho Nuevo, Mexico. Unfortunately, their population has steadily declined since the 1980s. Their biggest threat? Getting swept up in bycatch by commercial fisheries and harmed by abandoned fishing equipment. To combat these issues, the National Marine Fisheries Service has been working with local partners to safeguard sea turtles, protect their nests, and clean up trash and abandoned fishing gear all along the coast. In October, the International Union for Conservation of Nature officially took green sea turtles off the endangered species list after decades of conservation efforts. Wildlife experts like Brian Wallace, who runs the IUCN's assessment for sea turtles, hopes that success translates to other vulnerable species, like the Kemp's Ridley. Our gains are dependent on continuing to kind of keep our foot on the gas and continue to find, the success stories. The things that are working, where they're working, and keep up that momentum, Wallace told NPR. If you do the right things in the right places with the right people, good things happen. And I think that extends far beyond nature conservation. To everybody involved in the release of 27 Kemp's Ridley sea turtles and 2 green sea turtles, with more on the way, back into their natural habitats. Gosh, saving wildlife, one turtle at a time. Cheers. This next article we called Back Where They Belong, but it could also be Birds of a Feather. So there's some options with this one. I'll copy and paste it into the chat if y'all want to check it out. A dream come true. Brazil's blue and yellow macaws return to Rio after 200 years. This was published to The Guardian on the 9th of April, 2026, by Luke Taylor in Rio de Janeiro. Images of the iconic blue and yellow macaw can be spotted all over Rio de Janeiro. Yet the real thing has been seen so rarely in the Brazilian city that some wondered if they really ever existed there at all. The French explorer Jean de Lery first described an abundance of the giant colorful parrots around indigenous tribes in the 16th century, and the Austrian naturalist Johann Natterer cited the Ara ararana in the city in 1818. After that, the record goes blank. Experts say the species was almost certainly wiped out by deforestation, along with the tapirs, jaguars, and peccaries that once roamed the forests surrounding the city. Now, 200 years later, flashes of blue and gold are once again peppering the forest canopy, as biologists bring the species and the forest back to life. They are so magnificent. It's no surprise that all the visitors are constantly asking how they can see them, says Vivian Lasmar, director of Tijuca National Park. For me, as the head of the park, it's special. But even more so as a carioca, someone in Rio, it's a dream come true. Tijuca is one of the world's largest urban parks. It's nearly 4,000 hectares, or 10,000 acres, of green canopy that cover the steep granite mountains of Rio, closely hugging the city's concrete limits. This lush remnant of Brazil's Atlantic rainforest feels wild and remarkably untouched. But exploitation for commodities such as coffee and charcoal in the 19th century decimated the forest. In what many see as one of the world's first tropical reforestation initiatives, Emperor Dom Pedro II ordered the replanting of trees in Tijuca in the 1860s, but many species had already been lost. The blue and yellow macaw was one of the victims of this deforestation, with its colorful plumage also making it a prized target for wildlife traffickers. They probably went extinct in Rio due to the wildlife trade and deforestation during the European colonization here, says Marcelo Reingans, executive director of ReFauna, which estimates that 2/3 of large and medium-sized mammals that once lived in Tijuca have also been lost. But one by one, these animals are returning to the forest. For the first time in centuries, giant rodents scuttle through the undergrowth. Yellow-footed tortoises meander languidly, and howler monkeys swing through the trees, their bellowing calls echoing for miles. Only 4 macaws have been brought back so far, but it sounds like dozens as their aggressive squawks pierce the rainforest canopy. It's really beautiful to be putting the rainforest's orchestra back together, Reingans says with a broad grin. ReFauna started restoring the rainforest through its reforestation program, introducing the red-rumped agouti, a long-legged rodent the size of a cat in 2010, followed by other species that exist elsewhere in Brazil but were extinct in the park. These include the brown howler monkey, which was probably last recorded in Rio in Charles Darwin's Beagle's Diaries, which was in 1832, as well as the yellow-footed tortoise. All the reintroductions have brought excitement and new visitors to the park, but none are as beloved as the macaws. The large parrots, which are almost a meter in length, which can be found in other parts of Brazil and South America, are famously intelligent and mate with their partners for life. The blue and yellow macaw adorns artwork, t-shirts, and tote bags across the city and beyond, its colors echoing the country's national flag. The hero of the blockbuster film Rio was a plucky macaw trying to save the last of his kind, though Reingans is quick to point out it was the Spix's macaw that is endemic to northeastern Brazil. Now we are correcting the story and putting the right species here, he says, chuckling. 3 females and a male have been brought to the park so far, and are currently back in their enclosure for monitoring after being released for 15 days earlier this year. Refauna is planning to release them again in September. The release scheduled for September is a significant milestone in the process, though not necessarily the final one. All individuals will continue to be monitored, and recapture may take place if required, says Reingans. The macaws, Fernanda, Sultan, Fatima, and Swaley, named after actors in the Oscar-winning film I'm Still Here and characters from the popular Brazilian sitcom Slaps and Kisses, all have distinct personalities, according to the Refauna team, with the mischievous Swelly, who destroys almost everything she touches, being a particular favorite. Another 6 macaws will soon be brought to the park, and eventually Refauna plans to release 50 of them. The sight of a mosaic of gold and blue sweeping through the skies would be spectacular, but the project is about saving the rainforest rather than creating a spectacle, says Vanessa Canan, director of Instituto Fauna Brazil. Reintroducing species is not simply about returning animals to the forest. It is about rebuilding ecological relationships and ensuring that these species can once again perform their ecological roles, the biologist says. As with rewilding projects across the world, the Refauna team is constantly surprised by the way bringing back just one species can spark changes that ripple throughout the entire ecosystem. This is an excellent example, Reingans said, as he bends down and picks up a peculiar fruit resembling an avocado. Wannesia princeps, popularly known as the agouti fruit, was the main symptom of empty forest syndrome, which sparked Refauna's inception. The agouti tree drops its fruit as an incentive for animals to eat them and disperse the seed, but without the agouti rodents, the forest floor was carpeted with rotting fruit. In some parts of the Atlantic forest, 90% of flora rely on animals to spread their seeds. By reintroducing species, researchers hope to gradually bring the entire forest back to life. The agouti's razor-sharp teeth can crack open the toughest of nuts, making them a super seed disperser, while the large droppings of howler monkeys provide moisture and shade for seed germination, which are then rolled up by dung beetles to use as a nursery for their larvae. In English, the agouti nut is sometimes referred to as the macaw nut, and there are hopes that birds could also help break into some of the forest's toughest seeds with their powerful beaks. Unlike the agoutis, the macaws can travel tens of kilometers in a day, carrying seeds far and wide. They can also help regenerate other forests by taking seeds from Tijuca outside of the park, says Luisa Geniz, Refauna's scientific director. The success of the macaws will depend on their ability to adapt in the wild. The birds were rescued from captivity, and the team has spent months training them for their newfound freedom, encouraging the birds to fly to rebuild their muscles after years spent sedentary in cages, and feeding them native fruits so they can learn to recognize them. The biggest threat to the birds is their beauty. The park receives 5 million visitors a year, and their vibrant colors will make them the center of attention. Macaws are highly social, and their time in captivity has made this bunch particularly curious. Refauna's team has been trying to discourage them from their old ways by raising red sticks and shouting whenever they engage with people. In recent weeks, they covered the enclosure with foliage to stop the birds from gawking at their human companions through the cage. Maybe it's working a little bit, says Mateus Sete e Camara, a 27-year-old Refauna biologist, sounding rather unconvinced. They are also educating visitors about the dangers of feeding the birds. If all goes according to plan, Refauna is looking forward to a time when the skies above the park are once again alive with flashes of blue and gold, or blue and yellow. The macaw really is a symbol of our efforts to bring life back to Tijuca, says Ryan Gantz. My dream is that one day they will fly far away from here and we will be able to see them from all over the city. To everybody at Refauna involved in rebuilding the Atlantic forests of Brazil and reintroducing species that haven't been there, sometimes in cases of up to 200 years, like with the beautiful blue and yellow macaw. Cheers, and I hope to present future success stories. All right, that is going to bring us to category 4, the wholesome notes. We've got 2 wonderful wholesome notes tonight. And again, all of the articles that we present on our broadcast can be found in the description of our video, and we implore you to check them out because the sites that present them, and we're just a mouthpiece for, are really fantastic sites. So, our first wholesome note tonight is a Not All Heroes Wear Capes article. And I will copy and paste it into the chat if y'all want to check it out. Producer Donna said, that's going to be amazing to see, the sky full of blue and yellow macaws, and I agree. This 13-year-old has earned nearly 500,000 followers by cooking meals for his unhoused neighbors. This was published on April 16th, 2026 to goodgoodgood.co by Megan Cook. The Builders Movement is a community organization that has worked with renowned humanitarians like Chef Jose Andreas and Dr. Bernice A. King. Partnering with organizations like the Bay Area Rescue Mission, the Builders Movement empowers local citizens to address food insecurity and housing affordability from the ground up. And on November 30th, philanthropist and kind CEO Daniel Lubetzky welcomed a new builder to the fold. Today, I'm meeting a community leader who's feeding the homeless, but here's the twist. He's 13 years old. Lubetzky said in an Instagram video. An amazing kid, Dan. In early 2025, Dan began sharing cooking videos on social media. 4 months in, he pivoted away from recipes and tips to something that became the heart of his platform, making home-cooked meals for people experiencing homelessness. After cooking dishes like bolognese, mac and cheese, and Mongolian beef, Dan goes to local shelters and up to people on the street and asks 2 questions. How are you? And would you like some food? In less than a year, Dan gained more than 500,000 followers across TikTok, YouTube, and Instagram. In his holiday video with Lubetzky, the two handed out carne asada burritos, salad, and water to people living on the streets of New York City. It turns out he's a true builder, Lubetzky said. Someone who sees the humanity in everyone and brings real light into the world. All at just 13 years old. His Instagram is DanCooking7. We have linked all of this young chef's media in the description of our video. We have followed all of it, and I implore all of you to as well to see what this kid's up to, because this really is amazing. To DanCooking7, who's cooking and delivering meals to the homeless just because it's the right thing to do. Cheers. You are a builder. Last article of the night we called Rising to the Occasion. And I will copy and paste this into the chat if y'all want to check it out. Because we are not yet done with Artemis 2 articles, so we've got one more. How Artemis 2 Commander Reed Wiseman saved the mission's moon mascot. It's hard not to love this little guy. I can't let Rise out of my sight. This was published to space.com on April 13th of 2026 by Elizabeth Howell. Reed Wiseman had one last decision to make before leaving his spacecraft post-splashdown. Leave something behind in accordance with NASA's post-splashdown checklist, or not. Reed Wiseman, the NASA Artemis 2 commander, was supposed to leave a little plushy moon toy called Rise for later retrieval from his Integrity Orion spacecraft. But after 10 days of floating alongside the mascot to the moon and back again, Wiseman had a different thought about that procedure. I was supposed to leave Rise in Integrity, but that was not something I was going to do, Wiseman wrote on X on Saturday, April 11th. If you look back at some of the videos, you will see all of the astronauts at some point basically playing with Rise. Rise is absolutely adorable. Officially, Rise is a zero-gravity indicator created by Lucas Yee, a third grader from California. It's a mini moon with an earth-colored cap brimmed with stars. Inside the little toy are over 5 million names on an SD card, submitted by folks around the world looking to fly their monikers to the moon. Rise floated on camera in front of the crew after they reached space on April 1st, before the eyes of Wiseman, NASA's Victor Glover, NASA's Christina Koch, and the Canadian Space Agency's Jeremy Hansen. But during the unfolding historical lunar flyby mission, the first human moon visit in nearly 54 years, Rise also became a symbol far beyond serving, as a demonstration of when integrity left Earth's gravity. Crew members often played with Rise during live-streamed conversations with Earth, and the toy also took over NASA's social media streams mid-mission. But sharp-eyed folks on social media caught something very special in a NASA picture of Yee's family posted Friday, April 10th. At some point, Yee's Rise, a prototype of the mascot, was inscribed with the name Carol. Carol is the name, as we presented on last week's episode of Nick's News, Carol is the name of Reed Wiseman's wife, who passed away in 2020 of cancer. The crew suggested naming a moon crater after her, and successfully did, during one of the most touching moments of their lunar flyby live stream, and that was actually the article we talked about last week, as a wholesome note. The suggestion still has to be sent to the International Astronomical Union, which is the official arbitrator of astronomical monikers. But if it doesn't get accepted, we riot. It's basically how that's going to go. A number of years ago, we started this journey in our close-knit astronaut family, and we lost a loved one. Artemis II mission specialist Jeremy Hansen said to Mission Control during the April 6th event. Her name was Carol, the spouse of Reed, the mother of Katie and Ellie. Following the announcement, the 4 crew members shared one of their many group hugs on camera, before separating and visibly wiping away tears. Now safely back home on his home planet, Weissman readied for his self-devised final mission procedure. How to get the palm-sized Rise safely out of the spacecraft to the Pacific Ocean pickup area. I stuffed the little guy in a dry bag we had in our survival kit and hooked the bag onto my pressure suit, Weissman wrote on X. This allowed Rise to close out the mission alongside the crew. Secured on Weissman's suit, Rise briefly waited on the raft in the Pacific Ocean before a dramatic hoist into a waiting U.S. Navy helicopter, which whisked Rise, Weissman, and Hansen to the USS John P. Murtha. Glover and Koch, in their own helicopter, took the same journey to the vessel. The next day, Weissman still had Rise with him. He used a lanyard to secure the toy to a water bottle. It's hard not to love this little guy. I can't let Rise out of my sight, Weissman said in a separate X post on Saturday, posted from the crew's next stop at Naval Air Station North Island in California. As far as we know, Rise is still with Weissman. Rise appeared on stage with Weissman and the rest of the crew in Houston at Ellington Field near NASA's Johnson Space Center, when they celebrated the end of their mission on Saturday with much of the NASA astronaut corps. Rise next made a cameo in the image Weissman posted on X hours later with his daughters, with a simple caption, "Mission complete," accompanied by 3 hearts. NASA and Weissman haven't revealed Rise's next adventure yet, but in general, it is up to the agency and U.S. law to determine what happens to space-flown artifacts after a mission, which depends on the program and the era. But folks on Reddit nevertheless joked that Rise is a member of Weissman's family. Reed's new child, Rise Weissman, read one popular comment on Reddit. Or as someone else called the toy, Rise Weidman. To Mission Commander Reed Weissman, who decided to break from his checklist as set up by NASA and take the semi-official 5th member of the crew of Artemis II, Rise the mascot, with him and keep it safe. Cheers. All right. 7 amazing articles tonight. Thank you all again for tuning in or catching the replay on the Nix News YouTube channel. Again, we're live every Sunday, and our next episode will be on April 26th of 2026. We encourage participation, so by all means, if you feel inclined, you can send us suggestions for news brews, shoutouts, news quotes, and especially good news articles that we can present on future episodes. If possible, if you send a bunch, please try to spread them out across our 4 major categories, which again were science and technology, health and medicine, flora and fauna, aka plants and animals, and wholesome notes, the really nice ones we like to end on, like a 13-year-old boy cooking meals for the homeless, or a mission commander for a NASA mission bringing a mascot home with him. You can message us on Facebook or Instagram, or email us at somebudgetstudios@gmail.com. Links are in the description. Feel free to like, subscribe, or comment on our content across all of our platforms: Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok. We have TikTok videos. So we can continue to get good news and joy out into all of the algorithms. Please know SEO improvement advertisements, we're not interested. Nix News continues to grow thanks to all of you on all of the platforms, and I can't thank you all enough for that. It really is amazing to have folks who want to continue to spread good news, because we're hit with so much bad news, and y'all continue to make Nix News continue to spread joy and good news. So With that, as always, thank you again. I love you all. Have a great night, and I will play us out.